Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. Here we answer your questions on media and production 7 days a week. You can get those questions into us via Makana, and while you're in there, you can also vote on the questions and chat with the other producers. If you're not in Makana, just go to officehours.global/join and then sign up there. You'll get the email every day with how to be on the inside track. If you're not in Makana, there is another way to ask questions, though. We've got askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global, and that's open 24/7. So if you get a question any time of the day, if you're watching this later, middle of the night, that question pops into your head, just works. Alexander, let's get into the first question.
First one's from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. I think we covered this a bit yesterday, but the new Streamdeck Studio seems promising. Has anyone ordered this yet or thought about how to implement it into your workflow?
Go ahead, Guy.
I haven't ordered one yet. It's one of those things where I'm kind of on the fence trying to find a use for it, but Jonas and Tucker both ordered them. We're in this little cloud group that we have, and the reasons why they ordered them, there's a couple, but one of them is that you could access that thing remotely. So if you're doing comms and you're on the other side, you can still talk to that thing as if it were local, and so that button push can either be one of the unique things is that you can tag these buttons so that certain people with certain security authorizations can push certain buttons, so you can lock people out. That's something you can't do with the regular version of Companion from BitFocus. So BitFocus now has a paid version of a new app called Buttons, and Buttons is what integrates into Studio. Well, both do. So you can still use Companion completely for free the way that you have in the past, but you'll also be able to purchase this monthly or yearly or just outright subscription to Buttons. And then you have this ability to even use an NFC chip. So somebody with this chip can come into a truck and they could access the panel as an admin versus somebody who, especially for routing, like this is a big use case, is you want this source to go to that monitor. And so you could lock somebody out from making that change. One of the other things that I saw is Blackmagic's, ATEM software control, where you can go ahead and just preview program. So I see a use case there, especially for small churches, where yesterday I showed the Key Pro in action, where the Key Pro, you could hit record with one of those buttons, and then you could also have some other kind of streaming, like vMix. You can have a button that just says stream, another button that says record, and then some pan tilt zoom functionality that would, make the camera go over to the baptism shot or the pulpit or whatever you want. And you just have simple, elegant solutions for, it's expensive compared to a regular Stream Deck. I mean, I've got the $899 compared to a $299 XL, you could buy, almost 3 of them for $899. So it's one of those things where unless you have a use case, you might not want to purchase this one. But there is a USB-C on the front where you can, right now, if you buy one, you can get an XL for half price, and you could plug that XL into the front's USB. And so you still can grab your Stream Deck and put it in your hand if you like to cut that way. Because I know some people like to still push buttons. So it could be in the rack, but then you could have a cable coming down and put that unit where you want in the truck or on your desk.
And hang out, Zach, for the second hour today. We've got our European contingent live from Amsterdam for IBC, and one of the things that they got to get their hands on today was that new Streamdeck Studio from Elgato. So we should be able to get some first impressions from those folks over there. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael says, I remember Jef Kethley's mobile production unit in a Tesla for office hours space. Could a Sprinter van be a solid platform for a small-scale mobile unit in the local regional market?
Go ahead, Bill.
Sure, done all the time. We used to call them OB vans, or outside broadcast vans, and most of the TV stations, back when TV stations did a lot of local coverage, would get small form factor vans like the Sprinter. Sprinter's very popular for that. I know they have a windowless version that makes a good conversion into an OB van. And then the thing is, how much space do you need? When Jef was doing that fabulous thing with office hours space and had his Tesla out there, I remember when he drove up in it and I walked up to that the first time, I was like gobsmacked that he had really built a super cool switching system into the back seat of his Tesla. And it was fabulous because, the battery power in a Tesla is pretty robust. So he was able to run all this stuff. Now, we did have cables running out of the Tesla into the main switching system and the rest of that for our office hours space coverage. But The point was he had a very effective switching station. He and a passenger sat next to him, and they were able to do all the work they needed to do out of the back seat of that. Seemed a little claustrophobic to me, but I like some space around me. And, you know, we were on the air for an hour and a half, so whether you want to sit in your car for an hour and a half of a live switch, that's a different question. When you move up to things like the Sprinter vans, you can pretty much stand up depending on how tall you are and how the interior is configured. So you can move around a little bit inside without having to take a walk outside the van. But yeah, small vans and things like that are used a lot for that kind of purpose.
Courtney?
Yeah, I've seen a number of these Mercedes Sprinters being used for production vans. They do make an e-Sprinter. It's on its way here, I think, coming soon, all-electric version. So if you get one of those, you might have to look into it fairly carefully, because a lot of these media vans have a separate pickoff on the engine with a separate generator to generate electricity that just serves all the equipment that you're running, and an inverter inside the to use for the equipment that you're going to put inside if you're going to use it as a broadcast van. Because a thing to worry about, I have a plug-in hybrid. And one thing to worry about, those batteries that are in there are high voltage DC. So you can't just tie your 12 volt stuff that normally runs on 12 volts into them. You have to down convert it or convert it to 12 volts. And a lot of these cars have a small 12 volt battery just for running accessories. And that small 12 volt battery keeps all those accessories alive, including the security and locking system, which can draw a lot of current. And I found out the hard way is if you leave a 12 volt if you leave a dome light on or something in your car, and it runs down the 12 volt battery, you can't get in your car. You can't unlock the doors. You can't start the engine. Mine's a plug-in hybrid, so it has a gas engine in it, but the gas engine won't start if the 12 volt battery is dead. So you have to get somebody to jump the 12 volt battery to start the car, even though the electric battery, the battery that drives the car is perfectly fully charged. It still won't. You can't turn over the engine. You can't start the car. You can't wake up the electronics in the car that allows you to even start the engine without that 12 volt battery. So be careful if you're powering a bunch of stuff off of an electric vehicle and you're using the 12 volt system. It could run down your 12 volt battery and you wouldn't know it.
And if you're looking for something a little more economical, I think there's also a Dodge version of the Sprinter if you don't necessarily want to go right for the bends. Douglas, reach out to Brandon Goodyear in Discord. He's when he came out to Ohio for the Eclipse coverage, he had a Sprinter van decked out with his mobile production unit, and that's what he does all the time, and it looked really, really impressive. Next question.
Scott Mueller in Germantown, New York is asking, I work on a small team creating online content. I've built up a ClickUp workspace for video content, but the team has not embraced learning its task-based team management capacity. How do I coax them into investing the time to learn it?
Jesse?
What you're asking for is a calorie burn, and I have never been particularly good at requesting these semi-ambiguous calorie burns of a large team. I don't have the charisma to get it across the finish line. I've worked with people who can go in and say, hey, we got this great new tool. Let's try it out and see where it goes. And the team gets on board and they see where it goes. In these situations, because I don't have that talent for the calorie burn you're asking, the two routes that I try to go are, one, find a team member who is curious about it and just kind of shepherd them along as gracefully as possible and see if their enthusiasm bleeds out. And the other is, instead of selling your team on the idea, sell the manager on the idea. It's only one person you have to convince. And if it's a top-down order to do this calorie burn to keep your job and keep the project moving, then the team gets on board pretty quickly.
Bill?
Yeah, it's a little bit of management and motivational kind of exercise you're running here. I mean, whoever has decided the ClickUp workspace is the right thing, they had reasons for making that decision. And I always go back to the initial thing and say, can we communicate these effectively to the entire crew so that they get excited? I mean, the reason you're bringing this in, hopefully, is that it will make a positive difference. Now, I've seen too many initiatives that make a positive difference for the C-suite and the executives in the company, but it just is a hassle for the people on the floor who have to get the actual work done. And in those cases, it becomes a sales job that's a little more difficult to accomplish. But I always lean into explaining why why we, whoever is making the decision to bring this stuff in, why we decided this way, and what the benefits are going to be for everybody if this thing actually works. And hopefully there'll be some efficiencies and ease of getting things done, maybe reporting so that people in the field can get benefit of these. They don't just go upstairs, but they also go out to the crew so the crew understands kind of why what we're doing now is better than what we did before we brought this in.
Jesse?
And to speak on ClickUp specifically, or any type of web-based service, there's always the question on the team of, like, will this service exist in 6 months or 18 months? If we do this upstart, if we burn all these calories, is it even going to be relevant to our job in half a year or a year? So there's that hurdle to get over. And then there's the other hurdle of, why are we doing this in ClickUp if we could be doing this data management in a spreadsheet that we generate internally? So those are other reasons. Those are other things to consider as you try to sell this idea of ClickUp to your team. Are there alternatives, and will it exist in a year, or will it be bought by Monday or something like that?
Anytime that you're ushering in a new productivity management solution, whether it's ClickUp, whether it's a new tool in data visualization, whether it's an automated version of a way that a pricing report or some other procedure gets done, you've got to remember that people are going to use a tool if it makes their life easier, right? You're going to motivate someone to use your tool if you can do it with a carrot rather than a stick. You have to draw them to it. And remember, everybody listens to the same radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? If you can tell them why it's going to make their life easier as at the start, that's going to make people curious about it. But then you have to find someone to champion it, whether it's you working with the team directly, or whether that's one or two people within that team who you've kind of identified as your early adopters and the folks who will sit there and tinker and ask, what if instead of accepting what is. That's the team that you go. Those are the folks that you go to say, hey, start using this every day. And just, if you force people that this is where you're going to communicate with me, is going to be on this platform, it forces them to go in. But, motivation motivation isn't permanent, but neither is bathing. So, we recommend it daily is the other thing I like to say. So you should go in and make sure that it's not just a big bang kickoff announcement that then you never go back to again. Make sure that you're constantly checking in with them in a week, getting feedback from the team and saying, hey, this was the way that we're using this tool is new. This is 1.0. The only way that we get this to really be transformational for this team is if we have a give and take. And you tell me, what are your joys and concerns about using the tool versus just, I'm going to put some, have some edicts come down from on high. That's no way to be. You've got to have a collaboration with the team. And if they feel like they've helped design it, if they feel like they have some stake in the way that they're doing it and they have to think about it all the time, they're going to be more bought in because they have a little bit of ownership in actually using that tool. Good luck. Next question.
Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas asks, Apple added a repair assistant feature in iOS 18 that is designed to allow iPhone users to configure replacement parts after a repair. Discuss how this works.
Jesse.
I don't know how this works specifically. I can only tell you what I've been able to read online. I haven't, done any iPhone repairs with this system in place. What it seems to be doing, and I could be completely wrong on this, is it's kind of bridging the gap between first and third party repairs. And what it seems to be is a set of software that looks at any repair that's been done and analyzes the piece and makes sure that it's compatible with the phone. And if it is compatible, instead of bricking your phone, it allows you to use that third-party piece. So it's kind of they really closed this faucet on right to repair over at Apple, and they've opened it like, a picometer, and this seems to be like their olive branch and that little faucet opening.
Alexander?
Yeah, just one disclaimer I will say. I personally for me would never want anyone other than Apple official people to work on my phone. That said, I think this is a good thing. I think the right to repair stuff is good. I think everything that Apple has done to try to make it easier to support smaller independent shops that need to repair iPhones, to provide them access to OEM parts is a good thing, because there are a lot of aftermarket batteries and displays that unfortunately just make your phone worse. And in particular, those are two things that I think I'd be very sensitive about. The display, which I look at every single day, and also the battery that actually runs the device is super critical. So, having the ability to verify and tell the operating system, this is an OEM battery, and so that ensures that the battery health reporting and management is going to run properly and reliably, and also to ensure that when you're installing a new display, that it's actually going to be color calibrated. And actually, this Mac Rumors article specifically points this out to ensure that things like True Tone and all the other features of the display are working correctly, and that it's going to look exactly like how it left from day one from the factory. So this is a good thing.
The other part of the change that should be highlighted is that they're also extending activation lock to the parts, not just the phone itself or whatever that chip is in the secure enclave or what have you, but the battery and the screen. If they were previously paired with a phone, this goes back to parts pairing. If they were previously paired with a phone that had an activation lock on it that was lost or stolen, that battery and that screen won't work. This is really tricky to do. If you get it wrong, people are really frustrated. But if you get it right, it can deter people wanting to steal an iPhone. Bill, you had something. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. No problem at all. I just wanted an experience I had early. I bought the first Apple Watch, and I was really excited about it. And literally a week and a half after I put it on, I was an idiot, and I let it slip off the counter in the bathroom, and it hit the tile floor, and the crystal shattered. And I remember being really upset. And it was like $150 to get it replaced. So I was even more upset at that. I paid $300 or $400 for the watch, and now I had another $100 bill. And so for the next 3 years or 4 years, I had a bumper that I bought from a third party around the face of my watch. It was annoying, but it protected the watch, and I felt that was necessary. After reading a ton about how much R&D they put into the glass, making their own glass, dealing with hiring a bunch of material sciences people. In this last watch that I'm wearing now, which is I think an Apple Watch 7, I've been wearing this now for almost 2 years, and I've never had anything on it, and it has been absolutely a rock. They made that jump. They realized they had a problem. They did put a lot of time and effort and resources into it. And so now the chances of me going for a third-party crystal replacement, should I bust this one, I don't know how I could because it's been through a lot, is almost zero, because they put in the time to make something that was better than the first version. And they seem to be very focused on doing that kind of thing. So when yes, a standard iPhone, if you just crack the corner of it, you should have a cheaper way to repair it. But there may be something else going on there, and Apple's notorious for this in terms of some sort of capacitive thing or something going in there that they build into their technology. That's just their way of doing things. They say, we don't want to be the cheapest. We want to design this and be the best it can possibly be. So there will always be this tension, I feel, between right to repair and a technological company who's making things and are trying to make them better in terms of the experience for their users. And I don't think this chase will ever settle out.
Next question.
From the QR code, Marielle Jusha Miera and Wablo is asking, for VidSummit this year, what got you excited?
Bill?
I'm having trouble getting excited for conferences, although this is another place where my kind of brain is split. I love going to see my friends at conferences. There is nothing I enjoy more than having been on the floor at NAB with everybody from office hours who was part of that thing. We got to eat together. We got to talk to each other. We got to have all the little conference conversations and just get to know people better. It's just wonderful. On the other hand, there are so many people trying to put on the cool conference for the cool topic. I mean, how many AI conferences are people trying to mount out there? And you just get the feeling like, is this really one I need to do? In this case, for VidSummit, I mean, it says Spotter Studio presents VidSummit. I don't know anything about Spotter Studio. I don't know anything about the people I saw on the splash pages of these things. It's not the names that I understand from video. Now, that may mean that there's just a new generation of people and they have different people that will draw them to there. And that's absolutely legit. I also think to myself, do I want to go to Texas and sit in a ballroom for 3 days with people that I may not know to make those connections and form those relationships? I will tell you, I did that at NAB back in the early days of my career, and it was transformative. Getting into the people who are starting up a new kind of endeavor, or some of the movers and shakers, and getting to shake their hand and get to know them has been very powerful for me across my life. So I'm kind of literally, this is a tipping point thing for me. Is spending that kind of money and taking that kind of time to go to this kind of thing sensible for me with the trajectory I'm plotting for my career? If it is, go for it. If it's not, do I really want to go sit in a ballroom in Texas?
Guy?
Get off my lawn. No.
Yeah.
This is a very unique show. It's different than the other shows out there. It's for creators that are creating, that are pretty established, or are really going to go after it. I've gone to this show. One of the interesting things about it is the people that you get access to. Like, I mean, Daryl Eves, the guy who puts on the show, he's just does behind the scenes. He's written the book on how to be a YouTube creator and some of the things that you'll learn at conferences like this. And the people that you see, like, I mean, this was 2019. I shot this video because I was sitting next to these creators that my son watches, these guys right here. And so they were sitting next to me. So I shot that. But I mean, on stage was Mr. Beast. So, I mean, at shows like this, you see people and you're like rubbing elbows. Like, I didn't even realize some of these folks, the knowledge that they had about building thumbnails and things. Back then, Roberto Blake and Nick Nimmin, I know Bill doesn't know these guys, but these are guys that I pay attention to. Benji Travis, we had these guys on the show. Benji Travis and Sean Cannell, they're friends of mine, some influencers. And just the stuff that you learn through these shows can be the difference between make or break. And then these breakout sessions, these are the things that you can buy now for $199. You know, they're just simple. I even took pictures of their recording setup. They had, you know, a live view and ATEMs and whatnot. And then we were there in one of the booths doing some interviews and whatnot. So I'm very familiar with the show. It's a good show to go to if you are a YouTube creator. You will get your money's worth. For the $199 though, after the fact, getting recordings, it's different than rubbing elbows. I mean, you're talking to people there that they're the real deal. I mean, some of them, like the John Yushai, I believe his last name is, he worked for YouTube and he's sitting there giving you the tips of like 5 years. I'm on his Discord and there's stuff that they tell you that it's powerful to go to some of these. So I know people like Bill are just like, man, it's not for me, but other people, this is the right concert or the right show for the right person.
Let me just jump in and say that I'd listen to Guy before I listened to me, because I'm not at the point in my career where that kind of stuff is important to me. I did that with video back in the day, and it changed my life. So if Guy says go, I'd say go too.
Jesse?
The other thing is you can get access to the videos afterwards, but the reality about the information of influencing and social media is that it changes so quickly. The drop-off on the value of that information over time is pretty sharp. So if you want the information when it's the most valuable, you want it when it's the newest. So it might be worth going if this is what interests you.
You need to remember, I always like to say words matter. And if you look at when you're conspiring with someone, not in a nefarious way, but when you're conspiring with someone, that is, you break it down as breathing together with breath. Like you're breathing together. Companionship is with bread, right? So the act of cohabiting that same space, there is a little bit of magic that some people are able to get out of that in-person experience. It just is really tough to recreate. The other thing that I would say though is, the serendipitous or accidental, I bumped into somebody things that happen at that show. If you're spending your time on the floor, you're every hour that show's open, you're in front of someone whether you meant to or not, and you're always just networking, making connections. That's going to have you get the most out of that show. If you go there, go to the show floor for an hour and then go spend the rest of the time out at your hotel or doing something else in the city, you're missing out. You should be mentally and physically exhausted at the end of a conference for you to have gotten your money's worth, because that's really what that's there for, is for you to just be wired in the entire time. Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, one of the things that Mr. Beast did on stage, this was 5 years ago, he showed how he designs his thumbnails, and I was blown away how much time he spent. He spent 50% of his time on a production overall in one video on the thumbnail. So that's how crucial it was. And he showed us, I mean, he knows Photoshop. He would go in there and he would mask things out and extract them and make them bigger. And I'm like, what? You did that? And then he would screenshot it and put it on his phone so that he could see what it looked like on the phone. So little tips like that, it changed the way that I looked at thumbnails and the way that I created them. I spent way more time afterwards, because when he told me that he'd spend that many hours on one thumbnail, I just couldn't believe it. And then they would A/B split test. So there's little things that you get. Sure, the knowledge, I mean, we're talking 5 years, 6 years later, and that's still relevant. It's completely relevant. So I know some people say, hey, like there's a session here on AI with Nick Dimon, and there's a guy I was talking about, John Ushai. So the event already passed. This is already done. But these guys, I mean, I gave Nick a microphone at that last event. So these are guys that I've rubbed elbows with and met, and they're cool cats. I mean, you get to know them, and some of them you're still talking to today. Some of the guys that I've met at that show are still my friends, and I'm still Facebook friends with them, interacting with them, and seeing what's going on in their lives and doing deals with them. So it's one of those things where, one event can change your life.
Bill?
Yeah, I had an NAB that was like that for me in my generation. And I will tell you, one of the things that I learned is that I'm not going to see stuff anymore. For the first 5 or 6 years I did NAB and some of the big video conferences, I thought I was going to see things. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have to learn about the things and the stuff. But boy, the big transition for me is when I learned I wasn't really there to see things, I was there to meet people and form those relationships. And I think what CJ and Guy have both said is 100% accurate. Get into the flow of things and do your best at becoming the person that you would like to work with, and reach out, make these connections. The most valuable things that I had, friends I still have to this day, are the friends that I was in a lounge with, and they were at the next table, and we started talking, and the next thing you know, you find out you're both trying to do the same kind of things. And now you have somebody you can talk to outside of your mindset and your market, and really cross-pollinate ideas, and that becomes the powerful thing. To me, it's about meeting people, and get ready for that. I mean, have all of your contact stuff together. Learn how to sit in that little lounge and be interested in them. And when they're interested in you, have things to say that you know are worthwhile. Prep time for this. It's really some of the most important things you can do in your career.
And just to close the topic of conferences, I'd also encourage you to make it, remember that you're farming and that you're not hunting. You're planting a lot of seeds on a lot of relationships that are starting you down the path into something bigger. And if you do interact with someone who you form a connection with, and that you feel that there's something going on and that you want to work with them further, make sure that you follow up the week after, 2 weeks after. If you don't put something on a calendar, it's not going to happen. So if you really want to keep working with that person, figure out what the next thing is, and that's all you got to be obsessed with. Okay, what's the next thing I'm going to do with them? And that's how you're going to build on that community. Reminder for everyone, we are open for questions. Open for questions every day, not just during the show, but also after. You've got askofficehours.global, and that's, again, open 24/7. So if you've got a question, feel free to get it in. Hang around for the second hour today. Again, we've got some live coverage from IBC that we're looking forward to hearing about how they had an in-person day at a conference. Next question.
Natus from Melbourne's asking, playing a video clip with audio on my Windows 10 laptop into ATEM Mini Extreme ISO through HDMI. If I turn the speakers off on the laptop, it stops the audio on the ATEM. How do I get the audio to the ATEM?
Courtney?
Well, you have to make sure that you're set to have your output feeding to the HDMI on the ATEM. There is if you go to System Sound Output, you'll see here BMD HDMI. Make sure that is clicked. I won't click it because my output on this computer is actually going through my Rodecaster Pro, but make sure that's selected. And also, if you go to advanced settings down there, you can open up the volume mixer, and you can see each of your applications so that your video player, you make sure your video player isn't muted down here under the apps that are selected, and make sure your output device is still set to Blackmagic Design HDMI when you go. And of course, then on your HDMI switcher, make sure that the audio is turned on that HDMI input down here on the bottom of the software, or the button on the ATEM Mini is set to on. So make sure that is set to on, or audio follows video, so that when you take that, if it's set to AFV, that means that only when you put that live on the line and program will the audio come up. So make sure you turn it on if you want the audio on all the time, or AFV if you want it on only when you switch to it. So try those things.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, I've been trying out Sonible's Smart EQ, and it has been impressive in how it learns the spectral content of a track and manages frequency masking issues with AI. Anyone tried it?
Go ahead, Alexander.
Haven't tested it yet. It looks interesting, but I'm generally, as a philosophy, against any kind of automatic anything. I think people should learn the time to understand how these tools work. You should understand how compression work. How does attack and release affect the sound of the audio that you're putting through it? Learn how to use EQ properly and all the various types of EQs that are available to you, and learn how adjusting the Q affects the cut or the boost that you're doing. So I'm glad you like it. I just philosophically I don't like automatic anything.
In the chat, Mickey mentions, the AI can't read his mind and make it sound exactly how he wants it. And that's it's a fair statement. So you've got to find the balance of, is this something that I need to produce a result quickly? Maybe it's not optimal, but I don't have the time to sit there and tweak it. Versus if it's something that you want to last, or something that has a little bit more importance, you want to make sure that you have that time margin in there so that you can get it just right. Next question.
Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. I've been using DALL-E to try and make infographics with event info that I provide, but the product comes out blurry or without all of the correct info. What am I doing to cause this?
Jesse?
You're using DALL-E. That's what's causing this. These AI generative models aren't really for a finished product. What I would use it for is to generate a whole bunch of brainstormy ideas that you can reference as you build the infographic properly. It sounds like you've gotten further than I ever imagined getting on a AI model for that you're saying that it's blurry and the information isn't all accurate is miles ahead of where I would expect to be using AI to generate infographics. Use it for inspiration, and then use the proper tools to execute properly once you're inspired.
Courtney?
Yeah, I agree with Jesse. Infographics is not AI strong suit. They get text wrong all the time. They have a really hard time with text getting that right. Plus, infographics usually are designed to do, their best at square output. If you try and make them 16 by 9, they get harder. It's harder for them to blow them up or to create, because of some type of mathematical relationship of the pixels, square pixels, to oblong pixels. There's something about that. And the other thing is, if you want to create graphics that you're going to use in your infographics and you want text in them, you might look at Flux. Flux is a new type of AI image generator that can handle text, and it's very good. It's very accurate. It's more accurate, I think, than Midjourney on creating things with words in them. It gets the words right and doesn't just make gibberish words in there. So take a look at Flux. This is from a website called Atubo, AI Tubo, and they have a Flux 1 model running there. So you might take a look at that if you want to create some innovative graphics that you're going to use in your demonstration with text on it. You might try it with infographics. I don't know if it'll do it. I have no idea I have not seen anybody use Flux for doing infographics. H2R gear is a good thing to do that with.
Bill?
And just remember always the traditional triangle, good, fast, and cheap. We're not talking about cheap here because the cost is going to be the cost, but good and fast in a lot of these generative things and even rendering of regular stuff, the way that most of that is programmed that I've seen is that they know their audience wants to see something fast. So these tools sometimes comp out something fast that isn't particularly good, and then the engine works in the background for a while, and then later when it has more data, it substitutes the fast for the good. So I've had a lot of circumstances where I've been comping something and it requires a lot of rendering. It'll give me mediocre at best results to let me work with it for a while. Sometimes when I come back to it later, it's actually much, much better because it's had time to do the full rendering of the background. I'm not saying that these AI models are doing the same thing, but it wouldn't surprise me if it tosses something up quicker before it's completely finished and then substitutes it for the finished one later. That could be a technique they're using.
Yeah, I feel like the AI generated anything that has to do with text, it does fall apart. It's like it used to fall apart with fingers in the early days, like it couldn't get hands just right. But instead of exactly explaining the kind of text that you want to be on there, I think about it like I'm going to explain conceptually how I want to lay out the information. What am I trying to communicate? And, sketch out kind of the format of what I want that infographic to be. If you do it that way, then what will end up happening is you'll get like a skeleton that then you can trace over. It's almost like when you're doing a 3D model, for example. Like if I go into a space and I shoot the inside of it, like yesterday I was shooting the inside of a space with Polycam, and I got a 3D space of this office that I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put the furniture and where am I going to put the cable runs and everything like that. I am not going to show that raw Polycam capture to anyone and say, this is my final product, but that's going to be kind of the wireframe or the skeleton that I'm actually going to go ahead and put the final product into. Similarly, you can use these AI tools to make a little bit of a wireframe for what you're trying to do and then take it into another tool like an OmniGraffle or a Microsoft Visio or a Lucidchart or Junaid in the chat actually put in another one that I hadn't heard of, but looks pretty cool, ideogram.ai. Has a little bit better text representation. Use those sorts of tools to actually take it to the finish line, but use that AI as a starting place, because really what it's for is for brainstorming. Whether you're doing pictures in Midjourney or you're trying to chew on an idea for how to present something or how to have a conversation, all of these LLM tools are very good at, just kind of spitballing. I'm going to throw stuff against the wall and talk to someone who's not going to be necessarily an expert, but it's going to think about it in a way that's different from me. And then the magic is that collaboration where you find something in the middle of whatever you had in your head and whatever the LLM or the AI model presented to you. And then that's your starting point for what ends up coming out the other side. I think that's what's going to make it powerful. But good luck. Next question.
Samuel Nordvik in Norway asks, recommendation for a 5G cellular router for a backup internet connection. My 4G LTE connection has been very unreliable lately, most likely due to a lot of usage in my area. 5G on phones seems to work more reliable.
Good guy.
Yeah, the Netgear M6, because it has the Ethernet out, is a nice device to get. But depending on how you're bouncing around, I see that you're in Norway. Yesterday in after hours, Jonas was in his hotel room and he was setting up I believe it was the Peplink BR2. And what he was jazzed about was that he could just fire up an eSIM. And that's what's cool about these is that you don't need a physical SIM card. So this thing is... It's one of those things where if you want to make that kind of investment, you'll have the ability to fail over gracefully. And so and there are things like speed fusion that you can do so that there's zero interruption. But I would be looking at the same thing that Jonas uses. In fact, you'll see him coming in via this unit here in a few minutes as we bounce over to Amsterdam. He'll be using this exact unit. So in Norway, I would check to see if that works with eSIMs with your provider. And then the important thing to watch out for is just bandwidth throttling, because once you hit a certain amount, some plans like my AT&T plan, I wanted to switch into a business plan that was truly unlimited without throttling. So be careful of 100 gig plans that they're 100 gig and then they throttle you down or they charge you per gigabyte. And if you're doing video, you could get a massive, massive bill. I've seen some $400 or $500 bills unexpectedly where I was like, "Oops, sorry, we're going to have to charge the client for this now." So be careful.
That reminds me of the first day I was over in I had a layover in Hong Kong, and I was staying there for 3 days. It wasn't my final destination, but I wanted to see Hong Kong. So I get in, I plug in my phone into my computer to charge it because I was at an Airbnb. It was like 70 square feet. Like I had to put the suitcase on the bed to shut the door was the kind of place that I was in. And so I plugged my phone into my computer to charge it, and it enabled personal hotspot and just sucked down. I mean, it was doing like a Dropbox sync or something, gigabytes upon gigabytes, and I hadn't activated the plan, and I got the bill, and I was sweating. Luckily, the carrier showed some grace, but it is the bandwidth or the data limitations. They're real. It's really interesting though that you say that, Samuel, because I've actually found when I'm not in a big city, right, when I'm not in downtown Cincinnati, or I'm not in Chicago, or I'm not in New York, I find the 4G LTE to be better as I get more rural. But then, because the 5G, I don't know, maybe it's the way that we talk about 5G in the States, but it's like 5GE, or we have all these cute little ways that we try to sell that we've got 5G everywhere, but it seems like it takes more battery on the phone, and I don't get the same sustained speeds. But then so maybe it's different for you because you've got a more concentrated population. I did want to throw in though, Mickey in the chat mentions for mission critical PepLink for basic usage, a GeoLinet GLXE 3000. Sorry, go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, also, I know that you're a Starlink owner, CJ, and there are some new plans that have come out as far as roaming versus being able to move your I'm going to do air quotes of a residential, because you can change your residence to a GPS coordinate to be wherever you're at. So also take a look at what your bandwidth, your download upload speeds, what you're doing with it, and if Starlink is an alternative, because there's now the Mini as well, which can be a portable unit, which you can. I'm seeing guys build these little boxes and use like DeWalt batteries to power these things. So the Mini Starlink is worth looking into because it's like as big as a book. I mean, it's not very big at all. It's not like the old one where you had to, have this thing that was crazy moving around and whatnot. So take a look at Starlink.
And is there a different bandwidth cap on that for the Mini?
There's a bunch of different plans, and you got to be really careful on those because there's like priority modes and things like that if you're not careful, you can get burned. So you really got to look into your usage. And there's a couple Facebook groups, Starlink for RVers, and Starlink for boaters. Both those two, there's people who have figured out how to work around the system as best they can without getting hit with additional charges. So there's like $50 plans, $150 plans, and then there's the ones that have caps on them, and then there's the roaming one, and then there's business. So there's like 5 different plans. So you just got to be careful about which one you get and for your needs, so you don't go over and get unexpectedly throttled or an unexpected big bill.
It looks like the Mini's capable of 100 megabits down, which is nice. But I do remember that about the geographic limitations, because when we were getting ready to put the Starlink up as a backup internet for the Eclipse coverage, I bought the Starlink to be a backup internet, like a failover internet for a business. So I had a business plan. It was the $250 a month, 2 terabyte, whatever plan. But even then, it wasn't a roam plan. So if I would have opened that up and pointed at the sky in the wrong place, it was like I had to call them to change the location. And maybe maybe it was different for a business plan in that way. But I remember one of the other guys in the IT department said to me, "Hey, no, don't turn it on until you get there," because if you can't get a hold of them, then maybe you can't get out. So, yeah, it's the wild world of wireless. Next question.
Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas asks, Dyson has made another run for some stylish headphones, this time without a breathing mask that looks like it was out of Dune. It does remind me of my vacuum. Have they finally done it right?
Jesse?
Well, let's look at what we're talking about, and then we'll talk about what we're looking at. These are the headphones in question. As far as I can tell, they look gorgeous to me. I can understand if anybody doesn't like that design, but I really, really like it. The design of the price point is not quite as glamorous at $500. They better sound really, really good. Haven't heard them, so I can't speak on the audio quality, but they sure do look beautiful to me.
Courtney?
Well, I didn't look at those. The original ones that Marcus Brownlee reviewed look like this, and as he's quoted in the thumbnail, this is the dumbest product I've ever reviewed. So he wasn't real happy with it. They weigh a ton. If these are the ones you're talking about, these aren't the copper ones; these are purple ones. But they have a nice little joystick on the back. They weigh about twice as much as the Beats headphones or the Apple headphone, the Apple EarPods Pro or whatever they call those things. He said it was okay, but they're heinously expensive, as are all Dyson products, and they're not much better than regular headphones. And you look weird, like you came out of Dune or something or something out of Metropolis as a robot. Big ear.
Bill?
And just remember, they're copper. So if you've decorated with titanium, you have to figure in the cost of redoing your entire living room. Just saying.
There is an update. Marquez has a video on the new ones, and the title of this video is Dyson is back. Why do these exist? It's did they
there
have
you go. For people with too much money?
Do they have
Obviously.
an audio partner? Like, is there anyone that is actually hooked up with them for these? Because, like, you look at the folks who make these premium consumer-grade headphones, something that's in the $400 to $600 range, and you see there's always Bang & Olufsen or Bowers & Wilkins or Bayern Dynamic. Like, there's always these big names, and then you look at somebody, Dyson?
Yeah, but
what you don't want to do is
because
open up and find the drivers from 7506s.
Because it's Dyson,
case.
they can suck all the lint and the earwax right out of your ears. So you just have a little switch on the side.
Jesse?
I worked for a while with a fellow whose career was what was it, recreational spending for the ultra wealthy or something like that. He was a consultant, and what rich people would do would they'd call him and say, like, hey, what am I supposed to buy? I'm not having any fun buying anything right now. And this is like he might be interested in these products.
Yeah, I still think the biggest missed opportunity with the original design was to make it to keep the mask over the front and then have a tie-in for Dune 2. Bill?
I had a friend who was an art director, a very good one, and he went to work for the Rob Report, which is the magazine for people with serious amounts of money. And we were always talking on the phone, talking about at that rarefied level, people are looking for unique, specialized things. Now, this might end up in the Rob Report as one of those things, if it even still exists. I don't know. This was a decade or two ago. But everybody has their own purchase criteria. And I have had clients occasionally who have looked at me and said, triple the price of this. I can't get this by, because unless you're really expensive, they don't want to talk to you. There's some of that out in the world.
Alexander?
I hate the way Dyson products look, and I hate the way these headphones look. I'm going to keep using headphones from companies that are well established in the audio industry that have done that stuff for decades. So pass for me.
I think the why this exists is two reasons. Number one, they're trying to bring back enough products in this category to reinvigorate SkyMall, and number two. They need a product so that when another company is selling you headphones on the infomercial, they can say, similar headphones cost $500. But we're going to give this to you for 3 easy payments. Next question.
Next one is from Matthew LeCount in Oakland. Hi, I have spun up an AWS instance for vMix, and vMix doesn't see the G4DN.4X large graphics card, even though I have installed Nvidia Titan T4 drivers. Any insight? Thanks.
Guy?
Yeah, it depends on what AMI that you use. So what we've done is we got it down to a science where we're just using the Nvidia gaming instances. So if you go onto the AWS site there and just type in Nvidia gaming, the one that you'll want to use is one of these, like a nice DCV for Windows G4, G5. Because I've done the same thing where when the G5 came out, we tried to install the drivers ourselves, and Chirig was able to figure it out. There was some enterprise hidden script that he built, but the way that we do these now is Jonas has a script that he's built with CloudFormation, and it's easy as just to hire these guys to just take care of it for you. I mean, if you want to go down the rabbit hole and know how everything works and spend more than 20 hours figuring it out, you could do it by hand. But these guys have scripts, and I would just reach out to Jonas and I would hire him to just build you this stuff to make it work perfect. Otherwise, you're going to be going down these rabbit holes. But if you do, I'll give you a clue. And the clue is to just type in NVIDIA Gaming, get that nice DCV instance, and start from scratch. Don't sit there and try to find, well, I mean, I guess if you have lots of time, go find that enterprise driver or reach out to Chirig on Discord, and Chirig might be able to, or ask in the cloud Discord. Actually, that's the cloud production Discord in office hours. That's a good spot, and Chirig's in there.
Next question.
This one's from me. Does anyone else keep getting new update notifications on macOS 14.6.1? But then when you check, there's nothing there. Two M2 Mac Minis with the same problem. I have automatic updates and checking for updates turned off on both. Both are running Sonoma, by the way.
Jesse?
I don't know, because I've gotten so many notifications from Apple in the last year. I feel like they really ramped it up when they launched all their services, that you're just constantly getting pinged by them to do this, that, and the third. We have multiple devices, so we're constantly getting reminders. It's getting really hard to keep track of all the things they want you to keep updating and subscribe to, and I believe it's a bit of a problem.
Bill?
Yeah, Alexander, I've had a couple of successes, not that specifically, but a couple of things where I will hear there's an update coming out that Apple is pushing to everybody and recommending, and I will look to update, and it's not there. And I just think it has something to do. They're a global company. They have hundreds of millions of users of this. Their servers have certain limitations, and I think some of it is geographic. What are the loads hitting the servers right now? And I've seen instances or circumstances, a better word in the modern era, where there just wasn't server space for me to get in and do my update. So even though it said there was an update hanging on up in the cloud, I wasn't able to get there until a couple of days later when the load of everybody updating settled down. So sometimes I think it's just supply and demand stuff.
How's storage space on those machines, Alex?
The storage space, there's plenty of space on the drive.
Because at the times that I've seen where it won't want to download is if the storage space is too full, or if the internet connection, if for whatever reason, is limited. But it doesn't sound like those are the case.
Yeah, I totally get that. The problem is when you click on the thing that I don't understand. This must be a bug. When I keep getting the banner notification, which by the way, I've turned off all notifications and I have 0 automatic updates. It won't even. I even have the automatic check updates. Like the only thing it would prompt me to install is if it's like an emergency security thing where Apple has the priority, they can push that stuff. When you click on the banner, it opens the software update page inside of the preferences, and there's just nothing there. It says you have all the current updates installed. So it's not like there's something there it's trying to install. There's just nothing there. It says you're fully up to date.
It's interesting. The push notification service is coming through a different channel than system settings actually going out there and asking if it needs an update. And just as is it plugged in level thing? Because I've way overcomplicated my issues before by not doing this. If you do the About This Mac, does it say that it's running, if you Apple menu About This Mac, does it say that it's running an older software?
Sorry, I got distracted by chat.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. If you go up to the Apple menu and then you hit About This Mac, does it show what software does it say you're running? Because I'm wondering, is it updated with the push notifications an error?
Yeah, it says I'm running 14.6.1 macOS.
Okay,
Sonoma,
so then
that's
there you go. The push notifications coming to you errantly then. So you're good. Come on, Apple. Bill, did you have anything?
It's a bug.
No, I've had that same kind of thing happen. The push notification seems to be a little different, and it's just complex. Having 200-300 million customers means that they're going to do the best they can, but there are going to be errors here. And I agree. I think the push notification is likely not aware that you've already updated where you needed to go.
Next question.
Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas asks, Google's LM can now make podcasts out of your documents. What uses do you see for this?
Jesse?
I did get to tuck into this, and it's pretty impressive. If you were at the gym and 10 to 20% distracted from the podcast, it would hit your brain exactly the same as an actual podcast made by actual human beings. Do we need more hours of podcasts? All data seems to indicate that supply has far outpaced demand at this point.
Courtney?
Well, I think this is designed for their to use with their Google Notebook, which is kind of a note-taking app for people that are studying a subject and going to class and using the Google, the Google out there, to record the sessions and have Google's AI summarize that particular session. And then it can take that summarization and create a podcast format, audio podcast format from those notes. And so it'll be more entertaining. Then you can put your headphones on and go to the gym and ignore most of your instruction and fail the class. But hey, it's a different format, and you don't have to sit in front of a book or a screen all day to study the notes that you've taken on a very complex class on semi-micro qualitative analysis and chemistry.
Next question.
Zach Stelsmith in Chautauqua, New York, finally purchased a Mac with Apple Silicon, and I'm testing out workflows, including ZoomISO. I'll be using this for video and audio capture, live streaming, and small editing projects. What else could I use with it?
Alexander?
Well, first of all, Zach, congratulations. The Apple chips are awesome, and they're so much better than Intel, if that's where you were coming from. I generally like to use these computers like appliances, so I would try to limit the use of running multiple applications at the same time. So I think what you're doing, you're making good use out of it, but I probably would try to restrain myself from running too many CPU or GPU intensive applications. Just be careful with that, and always check your CPU and memory resources and test, and make sure it's going to do what you want to do stably, and try not to go above 60% overall usage.
Guy?
Yeah, to monitor that, take a look at iStatistica Pro, and that'll allow you to monitor those levels and see what's going on with them. It looks like this. And the other thing that I was just playing with in the background there, you can see that I was playing with some buttons in Mima Live. So that's one thing you could do is download the demo and try creating some buttons. It'll shock you how easy it is, and also how cool it is to have like a record button. And I know Alex uses this for his show that he does with Gray Matter, where it's just an iPad, because it's a web browser and you can use these buttons to start and stop record. You can do all these triggers, and it's really simple to use. It's amazing how you can program something like that seemingly would be complex, but Mima Live makes it easy. So I would download the trial of Mima Live.
Courtney?
And if if you're new to this and you're using the Zoom a lot or hosting a lot of Zoom, seminars or even meetings, you might try out Tiles for Zoom, which is the new thing from Liminal that they've come up with that works only on Apple Silicon, I think. So you could give that a try. Download it. Go to town. You can arrange all the participants in your Zoom meeting in little windows as you like them.
And I don't know if you do anything with photography, Zach, but I have, I used to stitch panoramas on older Intel Macs, and when I got my first M1, it was life-changing in terms of how fast it I have all these unprocessed panoramas because I simply didn't have the time, and now it does it before I even know it. Bill?
Yeah, I was just going to note, Statistic is a fabulous program, and I would go in that direction. But if you don't even want to take the time and you just want to immediately turn something on, Activity Monitor is already built into that, and it'll show you some basic statistics about what's hammering things, what are useful. Like as if you were the first-time PC user, there is a universe of complicated to simple programs out there. You will find them over the course of time, so dive in, dive out.
That's going to wrap our first hour, and unfortunately our only hour today. We were trying to get the feed in from the folks in Amsterdam, but it seems like they're having some bandwidth issues after all. So if you've got your IBC questions, hold them in abeyance, but do hop into after hours. Hang out in there. If we are able to get a connection today, that's where it's going to be. A couple thank yous for everybody. Just wanted to mention thank you to the panelists for being here today and helping us answer these questions. We appreciate your contributions and you sharing your life experience every day. Also, a thank you to our back-end crew who, while you don't see them on the camera, they are instrumental in making sure our show gets out to you every single day. Have not missed a day since March 25th, 2020, and that's thanks in no small part to the efforts of everyone around the world who helps support the show. And also thank you to our producers asking questions. Your questions drive the show. Your curiosity helps us all stay on our toes and gives us a reason not only to get up early and start checking the news in the morning, but also to make sure that we stay fresh and current every single day. We run not only on your questions, but also on your generosity. So if you like what you see and you'd like to see more, consider supporting us at officehours.global/donate. I don't have a Tlaloc traversal today, but I can guarantee you that there were many miles, many kilometers, and many million bananas for scale. We'll see you in after hours. 30,000 miles, 48,000 kilometers, 238 million. I was a little ahead of it.
There you go. Yeah, nice.
It sounds like the boys might join us in after hours from IBC. So those folks that want to jump into after hours,
that's going to be
boys
awesome.
might be there.
Global webcasting is not easy. There are things that come up.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's
The
not
signal
like
gets,
the
signal
not like
gets
the whole
stopped
world-
at the Amsterdam. Yeah.
It's not like the whole world is trying to get out of that same, 1 square mile right now in terms of getting a connection out to the internet.
It's that old Louis C.K.
you
joke. The signal's going to space. Can you give it a second?
Maybe it's a little boy with his thumb in the dike that's stopping the signal. Yeah. So,
Get him, but
Another
Yeah,
thank
he's
you
got
to
a
Zoom
little-
for that
somebody with a choke on
$10,000 hardwired connection at NAB. I mean, we had no bandwidth issues last year.
Who
Yeah,
put
but
the
we also
magnetic
had a-
choke on the main output?
I know it reminds us how lucky we were that Zoom ponied up for that because that was